What's up everyone? It's me, Emily. Welcome back to Emily Reads Books. Oh my god, I can't take myself seriously. Okay. If you are new here, welcome. I hope you stick around, and if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. It's always a pleasure. So, today we are not doing a tag video like I normally tend to do. I'm actually going to be doing something more, I guess, original to me. We're going to talk about things I don't like that authors will put in their books, or that the book community does in response to books. And I think it'll be fun, but I'm a little bit worried about what I'm going to say. So please no hate. I am a fragile bird, but also most of these things that I have to say are, I feel like, universally true. And if I come after your favorite book or series, it is not personal. I've probably enjoyed the books I will talk about, but no book is perfect. No book is perfect. No author is perfect. And so if I'm a little harsh, I'm apologizing now. I will try not to be. Before I get started, if you would like and subscribe to my channel, I post a new video every week. And let the bad opinions commence. Number 1. I hate flat female characters. Female characters that are one-dimensional. They're most likely just a side character. There's no depth to them. There's no anything to them. Listen, I love the Lord of the Rings series. I do. I've read it. I've enjoyed it. But you can't tell me, I mean, Éowyn and Arwen are great. But don't sit there and argue with me that the women in the Lord of the Rings are, like, important or couldn't have been replaced with pretty much anything. They were more important in the movies than they were in the books, I feel like. I got nothing from them in the books. And maybe that's just Tolkien's writing, but that was just not it for me. I feel like this is a problem specifically in a lot of fantasy. We have, like the token woman. And first of all, there are layers to this issue, right? Because fantasy overall as a genre is lacking in people of color and people on the gender spectrum, and anything that isn't like a white male or a white male fantasy, okay? Like, gloves are coming off. I'm really coming for it out here. This is something that the fantasy genre as a whole needs to get better at. And I don't even mean like YA fantasy, I just mean fantasy in general. I want well-rounded female characters. I want intersectionality in my books. I want women of color. I want queer women in my literature. I want queer women of color. I want these women to have depth to them. I don't want them to be able to be replaced by a piece of bread. Number 2, I don't appreciate the way that mental illness is portrayed in a lot of literature. This gets kind of touchy, right? Okay, so we have books like 13 Reasons Why. I can't. I've read it, and I liked it when I first read it, and I was like, I don't know, 15, 14 when I read it, and I look back on it, and I'm just like, oh my god, there were just so many things wrong with it, right? And I hate that we only focus on depression and anxiety, and not only are those things not always portrayed very well or very truthfully, but we don't even talk about how debilitating mental illness can be, and mental illnesses outside of those things, like, personality disorders, bipolar disorder, OCD, schizophrenia. There's a billion more, things that people can have, and we, don't talk about them, so how are we supposed to learn and empathize with those people? But also, they're so overly exaggerated or not done well enough, and they're just flat. And then again, we get these flat characters that have no meat to them, I guess is the best way to put it. There's just nothing to it. With this, having their mental illness define their personality or their character as a whole, kind of like how in The Fault in Our Stars, like, Hazel having cancer was like it. There's more to it than that, and I know that I'm generalizing here, but when you boil it down to it, like, Hazel Grace's entire personality was that she was dying. And there's more to people than that. There's more to people than their mental illness. There's more to people than disabilities that they might have. Like, we need to start talking about that more and letting people who experience those things write about them. I hope that made sense. Please don't come for me. Can we stop making bisexual characters over-sexual or confused that they have to choose? Thank you. That's it. I don't know what number this is. It doesn't really matter, but historical fiction, or I should say real historical fiction realism, if you don't know the time period that you're writing in, or customs of that time, or the etiquette of that time period, and you're writing about it, you need to do more research. I'm so tired of reading books that are set in time periods and they, one, don't acknowledge things of that time, or two, they blatantly just disregard certain customs of that time. Like, that would be like writing a modern piece and just forgetting that iPhones exist or that the internet exists. It just doesn't make sense. People might come for me for this one. Whatever. Okay. We need to stop writing about abusive men and then giving them a platform on which to speak and letting the protagonist end up with them and like completely disregard the fact that they were abusive. This is more of like something I hate about people in the reading community in general, but like, stop measuring your worth by how much classic lit you read, because honestly, a lot of classic lit sucks and it isn't good to read as a modern reader because it's confusing, most of the time problematic, the authors were most of the time problematic, or it's not relatable. They're great things to read as works of art that brought us to where we are now, or things to analyze and learn from and understand, whatever. But don't feel like you have to read that for pleasure in order to be seen as smart or a good reader or I felt so much pressure growing up to read a lot of classic literature because I thought it would make me seem smarter, and honestly, it just made me not want to read. Just read what you want to read, seriously. On a similar note, stop, unless a certain book is just straight up offensive and people shouldn't be supporting it or reading it, stop judging people for liking things that you don't like. And also stop hating female protagonists just because Katniss gets so much hate because she's in a love triangle that isn't a love triangle. Because what? Because why? The Hunger Games is like an objectively good series and it still gets hate. I'll let you put the pieces together. If you have questions about this, you can comment about it. We can go in depth, but seriously, like, stop it. Just as I'm thinking about this, also, can we get more fantasy series with female protagonists? Because I feel like I can count on one hand fantasy lit, like not like YA fantasy or whatever, but like fantasy lit with female protagonists. I feel like I could count it on one hand. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right places. Rex down below. We just need to stop shitting on people who like to read romance. I mean, I don't necessarily like to read romance, but there's nothing wrong with the genre, and books that are written in that genre can be really good for that audience and not be something that I enjoy, and I can acknowledge that. Can we start doing that? Same thing with YA. Like, we take books that are geared towards young women and think that it should be something, you know, if it's worth being good, it should be just objectively liked across the board when it's not geared at that target audience. Like, can we stop? Can we stop shitting on things that young women like? Unpopular opinion, there are not enough teen and YA novels that show a healthy relationship between characters. like a healthy romantic relationship, there's always like one of them has to be like low-key emotionally abusive and manipulative. Like, can we stop with that trend? Why are we teaching teens and young adults that being in those kinds of relationships is not only acceptable but expected? Also, can we like stop describing female bodies in that way? You know what I'm talking about. This is a pet peeve that has gotten under my skin because it's been pointed out to me as an issue, and now I see it everywhere and I can see what a problem it is. We need to stop describing people of color's skin as food, as consumable items. I see it all the time now, ever since it's been pointed out to me. Like, it needs to stop. I've heard from so many people that it's offensive and it's hurtful and that it's almost degrading. I mean, and those are not my words. Those are words that I've heard from the people that these words are describing. And it's like, ever since that was pointed out to me, it has become my biggest pet peeve. We need to start respecting that, and white authors need to get on that train. I feel like I have a ton more that I could go into, but I'm afraid that this video is going to be too long, so I'm just going to leave it where we are. If you want to hear more, let me know, and I will make more of my unpopular opinions. Or I could make one on my things that I really like that people put in books. I don't know, we'll have to see. But I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I think I hit the major ones. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you were able to follow along. I just kind of let myself talk. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. I post a new video every week. Thank you so much for being here. I hope your families are safe and healthy, and I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving if you are celebrating in the US. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of your day.